Kevin was just an 11-year-old kid, curious about history, but not very sharp. One night, something crazy happened. When he opened his cupboard, a glowing portal appeared inside. And before he could even react, 7 thieves, time travelers, stepped into his room. Kevin's eyes widened. These weren't ordinary thieves. They carried a map of the universe. People said they jumped into different wars, stole riches, and vanished. Kevin wasn't a thief, not even greedy. But he had always wanted to see history with his own eyes. This was his chance. The room filled with blue light. The portal shimmered, and Kevin knew it was now or never. But his parents had always told him, "Wherever you go, tell us first." No time for that now. He took a deep breath and stepped in. The next thing he knew, he was on a Viking ship. A massive ship ahead of them flew a Macau flag. That's when Kevin realized this was a war between American and Chinese Vikings. The thieves had no interest in the battle. They only wanted treasure. But while stealing, they made a huge mistake. This ship belonged to the queen. And now her soldiers had caught them. Just as they were about to be executed, the leader of the thieves, a girl, spoke to the queen in Chinese. Kevin was stunned. How did she know every language? Then he saw the special caps the thieves wore. One of them handed Kevin a cap. The moment he put it on, he understood and spoke Chinese too. To save their lives, Kevin told the queen something he had read in history books. 2 days from now, 3 countries will attack your ships together. Change your route through the snowy waters at night. You'll be safe. The queen had planned to do this anyway, but hearing it from Kevin amazed her. She wanted him to stay and help her in future battles. But Kevin couldn't. A new time portal had opened in the water. It was time to go. He and the thieves jumped in. When Kevin opened his eyes, he was standing on a grassland. This was Stonehenge, back when it was being built. Kevin had always thought aliens put the stones there. But no, it was humans, stacking them for fun. Seeing history unfold before his eyes was thrilling. That night, the time travelers finally introduced themselves. They weren't just thieves. They had once served God, but ran away, tired of obeying orders. Out in the real world, they realized they needed food, clothes, and shelter. That's when they stole God's map. Kevin didn't like stealing. He refused to help them, so they decided to send him back home in the morning. But when morning came, the portal didn't open. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of a war. This time, they had traveled to ancient Greece. Soldiers were hiding inside a giant wooden horse, waiting to enter the enemy's palace. The thieves were amazed. The soldiers invited them inside to see what it was like. But before the plan could unfold, the Greek soldiers outside decided to burn the horse for fun. Panic. Fire was lit. The travelers inside thought this was their end. But just before the flames spread, someone shouted, "Don't burn it! It's too beautiful. Let's place it inside the palace instead." Everyone inside breathed a sigh of relief. Once inside the palace, the thieves got busy stealing. Kevin, wandering alone, met a queen who could predict the future. She told him, "You will soon save the world and do something great." Just then, the thieves returned. It was time to leave. But trouble had just begun. Satan had found out about the stolen map of God's universe. Furious, he sent his demon to Kevin's house to take it back. When she arrived, she turned Kevin's parents into stone. A red light beamed from her eyes. It was terrifying. Luckily, Kevin returned just in time. He begged the thieves to help, but they weren't ready to fight the devil. Instead, they panicked, opened another portal, and jumped in. Kevin followed them, hoping to bring them back. The map went with them, slipping from the demon's grasp. She left empty-handed. Now Kevin and the thieves were in a jungle. Wild people surrounded them. Kevin had heard horror stories. These people ate outsiders. He warned his friends, and they all tensed up. But instead of attacking, the wild people welcomed them with fruit and gifts. They led them to their queen's palace. It was simple but beautiful. The thieves were disappointed. No treasure to steal here. But then, the queen showed them something. A crown made of peacock and parrot feathers. It wasn't valuable, but the thieves had a rule. Every time they traveled, they had to steal something. So, they took the feather crown. Soon, the jungle people gave them new clothes. That's when Kevin panicked again. He had heard another story. Wild people first fed their victims, gave them nice clothes, then sacrificed them on pyramids. Fear spread among the travelers. They ran to the next time portal, but it wasn't opening yet. The jungle warriors caught them and took them back to the queen. She picked up a knife. The thieves held their breath. But then, she sliced fruit and offered it to them. Turns out, people had written history all wrong. These wild people weren't killers. They only sacrificed corn, teaching their people that thieves would be punished the same way. The time travelers, guilty of countless thefts, were terrified. And the worst part? The queen's feather crown had vanished. She ordered a search. The thieves feared for their lives. But in the end, the queen smiled. She had already returned the crown herself. The travelers breathed easy. Just then the portal shimmered open. As soon as the time portal opened, Kevin and the time travelers jumped from the mountain into the water. When they regained consciousness, they found themselves in a desert, 10,000 years in the past. Kevin was furious. He wanted to go back and save his parents before the devil arrived, but the time travelers refused. They explained that time travel was only for witnessing history, not changing it. If they altered anything, the balance of the world would be ruined. Kevin was frustrated, but Phoebe tried to calm him down. She pointed behind him, saying his parents were there, but Kevin shook his head. These aren't my parents. They're Neanderthals, the first humans. Can't you see? We've gone too far back. The time travelers had to steal something before leaving, so Phoebe's companions stole dinosaur eggs, without realizing they belonged to a giant bird-like dragon. Meanwhile, Kevin found a dinosaur skull, knowing it would be priceless in the future. As he ran, the giant bird started chasing him. Just before it could attack, the time portal opened and they all jumped in. This time, they landed in medieval Europe, right in the middle of a deadly plague. The villagers believed the disease was caused by black magic and thought the time travelers were responsible. Before the mob could harm them, Kevin held up his massive dinosaur skull. Seeing it, the villagers assumed the travelers were great monster hunters. The king, desperate for help, gave them a mission to hunt down and kill the black cats, which he believed were spreading the disease. But Kevin knew the truth. He told the king, "If you kill the cats, the rats will take over the city and make things worse." The king was skeptical but listened. Later, the king invited them to a bar and shared another problem. An evil ruler had taken over the land, and the king needed warriors to help fight back. But the time travelers weren't fighters. They were thieves. Phoebe panicked, knowing they couldn't win a battle. The king, now suspicious, thought they were not monster hunters but sorcerers. Before they could escape, a group of thieves arrived to steal Kevin's dinosaur skull. With no other choice, Phoebe came up with a trick. She set fires around the village, draped villagers in white sheets, and spread rumors that the town was haunted by ghosts. She hoped the enemy soldiers would get scared and leave. But the general wasn't fooled. He ordered his men to capture the time travelers. Kevin, thinking fast, pulled out his phone and recorded a video. He showed it to the soldiers, claiming it was magic. Some were terrified, but the general saw through the trick and took the phone, ordering it to be burned. Phoebe ran off, promising to open the time portal. But as time passed, she didn't return. Kevin tried another trick. He spoke to the soldiers, convincing them that true strength wasn't about fighting, but about caring for people. His words touched their hearts, and they decided to rebel against their cruel ruler. Meanwhile, the king was too distracted playing video games on Kevin's phone to notice what was happening. Seizing the opportunity, Kevin and his friends escaped. Days later, Phoebe returned alone. She warned everyone to run because she had made a mistake. She had stolen dinosaur eggs again. Just then, the eggs cracked, and the mother dragon burst through the portal, furious. The villagers watched in horror as the giant beast swallowed the greedy king whole. But before they could celebrate, the ground shook, and a massive wave rose from the sea. From within it, a giant head emerged. It was Poseidon, the god of the sea. The time travelers had finally been caught. Poseidon sent them to face the ultimate power, the god who owned the stolen map. Surprisingly, the god wasn't angry. He simply gave Kevin one mission: retrieve the stolen map. In a flash, Kevin and his friends were sent back in time again, landing in ancient China. There, they saw workers building something massive, the Great Wall of China. But the guards wouldn't let them pass. Then, Kevin once again showcased his knowledge of history and told the king that the Great Wall of China would take 2,000 years to build. The king, angered by this revelation, initially reacted with frustration, but seeing Kevin's courage, he allowed them to move forward. Just then, a new time portal opened, and they stepped inside, finding themselves in another era. This time, they landed in the middle of a brutal war between Mongolia and Korea. A horrifying new weapon was being used. Sick and dead bodies were being hurled like projectiles at enemy lines. This was the first war to employ such a devastating strategy. The group ran for their lives, only to discover that the thief who had stolen the map of the universe was present in this timeline. They chased him down and caught him, but his accomplice had already stolen a piece of the map. When Phoebe confronted him about his betrayal, he simply said, "I never wanted to steal, but I had no choice. I have to go back." With that, he opened a new time portal and vanished before anyone could react. His sudden disappearance left the others in shock. Before Phoebe's remaining companion could say anything, he quickly shut his mouth, fearing exposure. The people around mistook his muffled sound for a cough, but as they used the sick as weapons, they assumed he was infected. Before they could capture the group, another time portal was opened and they escaped. Now they faced two critical missions. First, they had to find and restore the complete map of the universe and return it to God. Second, Kevin was determined to rescue his parents, whom the devil had imprisoned in hell. As they debated their next steps, the ground suddenly trembled and rose. To their astonishment, a colossal figure emerged from the sea. The being was so large that what they had thought was a pole was actually his cap. Kevin wasted no time. He pleaded for help, explaining that his parents were trapped in hell and that he needed assistance reaching the entrance. The giant, moved by Kevin's determination, agreed, and, with just a few steps, brought them to the gates of hell in mere seconds. As they stood before the fiery abyss, a terrifying sight unfolded. Flames roared, casting eerie shadows, and the heat was suffocating. The thieves hesitated, but Kevin, driven by his resolve, bravely stepped forward and entered hell alone. Inside, he found his parents unharmed but bound in heavy chains. When he demanded their release, the devil proposed a trade, the blueprint of the universe in exchange for their freedom. Kevin, skeptical, questioned why someone as powerful as the devil had not taken the blueprint himself. The devil admitted that God had placed a divine shield around it, preventing any demonic being from seizing it. "But if you give it to me," the devil said, "I will rule the entire universe." Just then, a blinding blue light filled the room, and the ground shook violently. When Kevin turned around, he saw God himself had arrived. He had come to reclaim the blueprint. A tense standoff ensued, with God and the devil exchanging heated words. It became clear that both sought the blueprint for their own purposes, the devil to rule and God to destroy the universe and rebuild it, correcting what he considered his past mistakes. Kevin intervened. "Before we discuss anything," he said, "release my parents. Then I'll consider my options." He then posed a crucial question to God. "Why destroy everything? I've seen the worst of history, but I've also seen the most beautiful moments. Not everything needs to be erased." God was unmoved. This world is broken beyond repair. It must be remade. Kevin made a bold decision. Instead of giving the blueprint to God, he handed it to the devil, shocking everyone. Even God was confused by Kevin's choice. But before the devil could revel in his victory, a dramatic twist unfolded. Kevin's companion had secretly switched the real blueprint with a fake one. Neither God nor the devil held the true map of the universe. Realizing they had been tricked, both divine entities erupted in rage. But it was too late. Kevin and his group opened a portal and escaped, laughing as they returned to their time-traveling adventures. The season ended on a thrilling note, leaving one final mystery. Where would their journey take them next?